For our presentation, our group decided to talk about animals in captivity. This presentation is by Andrew Cameno, Kimberly Brandt, Natalie Vigneault, Crystal Sedano, Mariah Laura, Ethan Sakamoto, and Paige Barton. I will start off this presentation by talking about the benefits of animals in captivity. My name is Crystal Sedano, and I will introduce the history and background of animals in captivity. Before there was WAZA, World's Associations of Zoos and Aquariums was an earlier international association of directors of zoological gardens founded in 1935. An international union of directors of zoological gardens was founded in 1946. Then a couple of years later, in 1948, the International Union of Directors of Zoological Gardens was a founding member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. That is when the year 2000 came around and was renamed the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which is also known as WAZA. WAZA started breeding programs in 2003. Their mission is to manage and breed animals while meeting high standards of animal welfare and husbandry. This is a logo of the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So now moving on to the first public zoo. The first public zoo was opened in Paris on June 10, 1793. This zoo was created for entertainment, scientific, and educational purposes. Although this was the first public zoo, zoos started off in China more than 1,000 years ago, before our era. These zoos were named the Gardens of Intelligence. At this time, an average person was not allowed to witness this. At this time, zoos were only available to certain people, maybe a few that were a big part of the zoos, and the public weren't allowed to view any of the animals at this time. So after doing research of the first public aquarium, there wasn't much on it, but we did find that this aquarium was the first public aquarium. The first public aquarium opened up in the London Zoo in May 1853. This aquarium was known as a fish house. It was really popular, and that is what it went by. So going back to an example of why animals should be in captivity, an actual recent event just happened of the killing of Cecil the lion. Cecil the lion was a well-known lion and a major attraction. He was shot with a bow and arrow by a hunter named Walter Palmer. The lion was 13 years old when he died, surviving from 2002 to 2015. The lion was being studied and tracked by the University of Oxford. If this lion was kept in captivity, he would still be alive and his species would still carry on. This is one less of his species, which now makes them an endangered species. So based off of this information, we believe that it is important to keep animals in captivity.
Hi, my name is Mariah Laura, and I'll be discussing the ethical aspects of animals in captivity. In SeaWorld San Diego, they have an orca breeding program. The orca breeding program has helped bring orcas to safety. Breeding orcas increases the low population numbers and endangered species, not just in orcas, but in other animals as well. The orcas were hunted and disliked. Once they were released into the wild, they were not able to survive. Zoos and aquariums help the animals and sea life because they are given veterinary care. They help prevent extinction and educate visitors about the animals. Zoos and aquariums also help animals from extinction. They help prevent infections or diseases and give the animals the best care they can receive. When the animals are kept in zoos and aquariums, it keeps them safe from human harm when they're out in the wild, and they are received the best care and can live a healthy life rather than out in the wild when they have to care for themselves and learn how to survive. Wildlife rehabilitation helps to get animals on their own and healthy to then be able to release out into the wild. They bring in injured animals, nurse them back to health, and once they're ready to go out, they let them out. Those animals are not considered really being in captivity because they are released back into the wild where they belong. So they keep them in captivity just to nurse them back to health, get them going and ready to be out into the wild. Cecil the lion is just another example of why we need to keep animals in captivity. If Cecil the lion was kept in captivity, he wouldn't have been killed or harmed from humans. Because he is an animal that is extinct, there's only one of a kind of him. He was killed and he's the last one and shouldn't have been killed because and he should have been kept as safe in captivity. These animals live a better life and healthier life when under the care of humans. They also live longer than out in the wild. If in the wild there's no safeness or helping, you're on your own and you have to learn how to survive. These animals are better with our help and care. We can provide them with the best to help them go to live a richer life. We help prevent the animals from getting killed, especially the ones that are going extinct. Learning more about why we keep animals in captivity is such important because, for example, like zoos and aquariums, they're there to educate the public so you can learn more about the animal. And at the same time, they're giving that animal the best life they can, and instead of being in the wild when they don't know what can come next to them. They're being always taken care of, the best medicine, and always the veterinarians on staff are there to help when they are in need. Wildlife rehabilitation is another reason why animals should be kept in captivity. That program is a really good program because they help bring the animals back onto their feet, nurse them back to health, and humans are here to help them because they can't sometimes help themselves. So we're here for them. That's why animals in captivity is the safest place for an animal. Even though it may sound bad, it's really, if you think about it, the safest way for that animal to live longer, healthier lives than they can in the wild.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Brandt, and I'm going to be talking about a few current events that have to do with animals in captivity. So, there are 5 major events that are happening that many people are aware of, and I will be talking about the pros of each of those events and how animals in captivity are actually good. So, first, I will be talking about the SeaWorld Orca breeding program. SeaWorld was actually opened in 1964, and the breeding program was discovered soon after that. The program was used to bring these mammals up close and personal to people because originally they were feared, hated, or often hunted in the wild. And through this program, they actually became one of the most popular marine mammals just because of all the exposure they had. SeaWorld is actually recognized and supported by the Humane Society because they want to help raise the awareness for animal welfare, which is one of the main goals of this breeding program. So down below, I have a photo of some of the orcas you can find in this breeding program and that you also can find at SeaWorld. So next, I will be bringing back up Cecil the lion and how his death had a huge effect on poaching and hunting in the wild. So up above, we have a photo of when he was hunted and killed. And so his death actually brought light to the issue of hunting and poaching because many animals are hunted for fun or as big game or even for parts of their body. And many reasons for this is because mainly trophy hunting regulations are not strict enough, so many animals are still hunted on reservation grounds, which means that they're still hunted and poached even in their natural environment. So a big thing is if endangered species were still kept in captivity, they would not be in this sort of danger or have this kind of risk. So Cecil's death brought a huge outcry for the conservation of wildlife, and it made many people want to have some kind of effect on this issue to where it would not be happening as much. Another huge thing was this photo down below is of a teenager that lives in Texas. Her name is Kendall Jones, and this became very viral on social media and many people. This also brought another outcry for the conservation of large animals and wildlife. So next I will be talking about zoos and aquariums because this is the first thing that usually comes to people's minds when they think of animals in captivity, and they really have a bad reputation. So I'm going to kind of talk about how they are beneficial to the animal themselves. First off, animals are given a very high quality of life, and sometimes their quality of life is actually higher than it would be in the wild. One of those reasons is that there's no risk for predators, so they really won't be a prey in that environment, and also natural threats. Another reason that it's safer is because diseases and parasites are very minimal since they receive around-the-clock veterinary care. So veterinarians are there to take care of any illnesses or injuries. As you can tell in this picture down below, the space is limited, but it's not to an extreme. They still have aspects of their natural environment in their enclosures. And as you can tell in the top right at this aquarium, the enclosures are actually very diverse as they have many different types of species in this one area. Now, another large benefit of these types of environments is that it gives us the ability to educate others and the general public on their species, and also educate and help others understand the conservation efforts we have for this sort of wildlife. So lastly, I will be talking about wildlife rehabilitation, which is actually a very big conservation effort we have for wildlife. The two main goals for rehabilitation is to treat animals to return them to their natural habitat, and to also educate the general public on wildlife resources. So as you can tell in this top right photo, you actually provide professional care to sick, injured, and orphaned wild animals, and this is because they usually work with veterinarians to assess the injuries and to diagnose the illnesses, so you have the professional care to help these animals. As you can also tell down below on the left, you kind of form a bond with the animal, so it kind of helps them become more involved with people. But in order to do these sorts of things, you must have a permit to have these animals in your care.
I'm Paige Barton, and I will be doing the sociological and cultural importance of animals in captivity. I will also be doing the informed opinion. Zoos were first created during the Enlightenment era, a time of great intellectual advancement. This was also a time where people began to want to learn for themselves rather than just believing what they had been told, believing what they had been taught. The zoos were created to spark people's curiosity and their scientific interest in a time where these things were, they were a large part of society and culture. Later on, once the baby boom hit and society began to emphasize close families and family bonding, zoos and other types of animal captivity, such as circuses, provided a form of family entertainment where families could go and have a family-oriented experience. It was good for older family members, younger family members, small children, everyone. Zoos and circuses also include exotic animals most of the time, and these exotic animals can be used as an educational tool to teach people about the countries and the cultures where these animals are coming from. Also, I'll just use the example of America. We're a highly modernized society, and it's very common to find things in our society mixing education and leisure, whether it be TV shows, books. This just happens to be zoos. And mixing pleasure and leisure, it's very common in our culture and our society. Also, an example of America, we're very globally involved. And zoos and circuses, they allow us to learn about the countries that we are involved in and the animals that come from them. By keeping animals in captivity, it can keep species from going extinct. This adds to the knowledge that we know about these species that we may not know, or that we may not have learned had we just let nature run its course. As for our informed opinion, after we read all the articles, reviewed all the data, we've decided that we are for animals in captivity because it provides education to the public, it saves animals from extinction, and it provides care to sick or injured animals that would not get that care were they left to their own devices.